Hi, 5th graders. Welcome to Lesson 1.12, Grouping Symbols. The essential question for this lesson is, in what order must operations be evaluated to find a solution when there are parentheses within parentheses? Now, go ahead and open up your Go Math workbooks to Lesson 1.12, found on page 25, and let's get started. Now, before we begin solving any problems in this lesson, I want to talk to you guys about some new grouping symbols that you're going to be seeing in these problems. You're going to see parentheses, which you are familiar with, but you're also going to begin to see what are called brackets, and they look like this. And you're also going to see what are called braces, and they look like this. And these are all different grouping symbols used in expressions. Now, to evaluate an expression with different grouping symbols like parentheses, brackets, and braces, you have to perform the operation in the innermost set of grouping symbols first. Then evaluate the expression from the inside out. Now, we're going to take a look here at question number 1. And as you can see, question number 1 has already been completed for us, but once again, it's a good model to explain how to use those different grouping symbols in order to evaluate an expression. Now, let's take a look at question number 1. As you can see, question number 1 has already been completed for us, but once again, it's a good model to show us how to use the different grouping symbols, which are once again the parentheses, brackets, and braces, and we're going to use those to evaluate the expression. Now, for question 1, they give us 5 times, and that is on the outside. Now, you also see now a set of brackets. Inside those brackets, you have 11 minus 3 in parentheses minus 13 minus 9 in parentheses. Now, once again, when you begin to evaluate the expression, you have to perform the operation in the innermost set of grouping symbols first. And in this problem, what I see that there are parentheses, and those are the innermost set of grouping symbols. So I'm going to follow step number 1, and step 1 says perform the operations in parentheses first. So we're going to first of all evaluate 11 minus 3. And when you take 3 away from 11, it leaves you with 8. Now, inside our brackets, we still have a set of parentheses, and inside the parentheses, you see 13 minus 9. When you take 9 away from 13, that leaves you with 4. So we now have 8 minus 4 inside our brackets. Well, we have to continue solving, and step 2 says, next perform the operations in the brackets. So when I take 4 away from 8, that's going to leave me with 4. Now, the only operation I have left is the multiplication. So I'm now going to multiply 5 times 4, and that's going to give me an answer of 20. So we have now simplified that expression, or evaluated that expression, and we worked from the innermost set of grouping symbols out. So we started with our parentheses first, then we solved what was in the brackets, and then our last step was to work the multiplication. Now, let's take a look at question number 2. Our job here is to evaluate the numerical expression. Now, once again, in this problem, we're going to see both parentheses, which you see here, and we also have brackets. So what we're going to do is, once again, we're going to work from the innermost set of grouping symbols to the outermost set. So I'm going to start first of all by solving what's in parentheses first. So I'm going to start first of all with my 9 minus 2. And I know that when I solve 9 minus 2, that's going to give me 18. Now I'm going to rewrite my problem. So I now have 30 minus, and then I have brackets, and then I have my 18 minus, in parentheses, 3 times 4, and then I also have my bracket. Now, I still have a set of parentheses that I need to focus on that are inside the brackets. So I now am going to solve 3 times 4. And I know that 3 times 4 is going to give me 12. So I'm now going to rewrite what I have. I now have 30 minus, and then I have my brackets. Now I have 18 minus 12, and then I have my other bracket here. Now that all of my parentheses have been taken care of, I'm now going to focus on simplifying or evaluating what's inside the bracket. So I'm now going to take 12 away from 18, and when I do that, that gives me 6. Well, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite my problem, and I'm now left with 30 minus 6. So subtraction is the only operation I have left here, so I'm going to go ahead and take 6 away from 30, and when I do that, I end up with 24. So I have now evaluated the numerical expression, and I started with my parentheses, and then I solved what was in the brackets in order to evaluate my problem. Now, let's take a look at question number 4. Once again, our job is to evaluate the numerical expression. Now, for number 4, they give us 7 times, and then you see your brackets. And inside the brackets, we have 9 plus 8 inside parentheses minus 12 minus 7 inside parentheses. Now remember, when I'm working with multiple grouping symbols like brackets and parentheses, I have to work from the innermost set to the outermost set. So what that means is I'm going to start first of all by working inside the parentheses. So my first step is going to be to start with my 9 plus 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add 9 plus 8. And when I add 9 plus 8, that's going to give me 17. Now I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the rest of my problem. I have 7 times, and then I have my brackets. 9 plus 8 was 17. Then I have minus in parentheses 12 minus 7. And then I have my bracket to finish it out. Now, in looking at my problem, I see that I still have a set of parentheses that I need to simplify or evaluate. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take 7 away from 12, and 12 minus 7 leaves me with 5. So I'm now going to go ahead and rewrite the rest of my problem. I still have 7 times, then I have my bracket, and then I end up with 17 minus 5, and that's what's going to be inside my set of brackets. Now that I've taken care of my parentheses, I'm now going to focus on solving what's inside the brackets, and that would be 17 minus 5. So when I take 5 away from 17, that's going to leave me with 12. Now I'm going to rewrite the rest of my problem, so I now have 7 times 12. Well, I can see that multiplication is the only operation that I have left, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply 7 times 12. And when I multiply 7 times 12, that's going to give me 84. So I have now evaluated my expression starting with my parentheses first, working my way out to my brackets, and that's how I come up with an answer of 84. Now, let's take a look at question number 6. Once again, our job is to evaluate the numerical expression. Now, for number 6, what they give us is, inside the brackets, I have in parentheses 8 times 9 minus, in parentheses, 6 times 7, and then outside of the brackets, I have minus 15. Now, once again, when I'm working with multiple grouping symbols like parentheses and brackets, we work from the innermost set to the outermost set. So what that means is I'm going to start with my parentheses first. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start by solving 8 times 9. And when I multiply 8 times 9, that's going to give me 72. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite my problem. So now in brackets I have my 72 minus, in parentheses, 6 times 7. And that's all inside the brackets. And then outside of the brackets I have minus 15. Well, I see that I still have a set of parentheses that I need to evaluate inside the brackets. So I'm going to go ahead next and I'm going to multiply 6 times 7. And when I multiply 6 times 7, that's going to give me 42. So I'm now going to go ahead and rewrite the problem. In my brackets, I now have 72 minus the 42, and then outside of the brackets, I have minus 15. Well, now that I've taken care of both sets of my parentheses, I'm now going to focus on simplifying or evaluating what's inside the brackets. So I'm now going to take 42 away from 72, and when I do that, that leaves me with 30. Well, I'm going to go ahead and bring down the rest of my problem, which is minus 15. So what I notice now is that I'm left with just subtraction. So I'm going to go ahead and take that 15 away from 30, and when I do that, my answer turns out to be 15. Now, let's take a look at question number 8. Once again, our job is to evaluate the numerical expression. Now, in this expression, you're going to see something a little bit different. We still have our parentheses, and we see two groups of parentheses. We still have our brackets. You see the set of brackets here and here. Now, around those brackets, you're also going to see something new, and those are the braces. Now, let's talk about the order, the way things must be completed. Step number 1 is always to complete the parentheses first, the innermost grouping set. Then I'm going to work out to my brackets, and the last step is going to be to complete what's found inside the braces. So let's go ahead and start to evaluate this expression. I'm going to start out first of all, once again, working with my parentheses. So what I'm going to do first is this. I'm going to go ahead and solve the 8 minus 3. Now I know that when I take 3 away from 8, that's going to give me 5. Now, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the problem that's given. I have my braces on the outside. I have my brackets. Now I have in my brackets 5 times 2. And then it's going to be plus, in another set of brackets, 5 times 6 in parentheses, minus 5. And then I have my set of braces here. And then outside I have divided by 5. Now what I notice is I still have another set of parentheses that I need to be working in. So I'm next going to go ahead and solve what's in those parentheses, which is 5 times 6. Well, I know that 5 times 6 is going to give me 30. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the problem once again. So I'm going to start over here on the outside where I have my braces, and then inside my set of brackets I have 5 times 2, and that's going to be plus, now inside a set of brackets, 30 minus 5, and then outside I have the braces once again, and then it's all going to be divided by 5. Well, now that I've taken care of what's inside the parentheses, I'm now going to focus on what's inside my brackets. Because remember, once again, we're working from the innermost set, which is your parentheses, to the outermost set. And once parentheses have been taken care of, it's now time to work on what's inside the brackets. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the 5 times 2. I know that 5 times 2 is going to give me 10. And now I'm going to go ahead and rewrite what's given. So I have my braces here, and then I have my 10, plus, and then inside brackets, I have 30 minus 5, and then I have my other set of the braces here, and then outside I have divided by 5. Well, now I once again notice that I still have my brackets that I have to take care of, and inside those brackets I have 30 minus 5. So I'm not going to take 5 away from the 30, and that's going to leave me with 25. So I now have, inside my braces, 10 plus the 25, and then it's going to be divided by 5. Well, I've now taken care of what's inside the parentheses, and I've now taken care of what's inside the brackets, so I'm now going to focus on what's inside the braces. So I'm next going to add my 10 and my 25 together, and when I do that, 10 plus 25 is going to give me 35. Well, I'm now going to go ahead and rewrite the rest of my problem, and we're now just left with that divided by 5. Well, I see that division is my only operation left, so I'm now going to go ahead and divide 35 by 5, and that's going to take me to a 7. And I have now evaluated that numerical expression. And once again, when you're working with multiple grouping symbols, you work from the innermost to the outermost set. So that means you work from your parentheses, then to your brackets, and then to your braces. Now, let's take a look at question number 9. Number 9 is one of our real-world problem-solving questions, and it says, Joan has a cafe. Each day she bakes 24 muffins. She gives away 3 and sells the rest. Each day she also bakes 36 cupcakes. She gives away 4 and sells the rest. Now, question 9 says, write an expression to represent the total number of muffins and cupcakes Joan sells in 5 days. Well, as I'm reading through that problem, I notice a few things. I notice, first of all, that each day Joan bakes 24 muffins, and I know that she gives away 3 of those muffins. So I'm going to start out with my 24, And if she's giving away 3 of those muffins are going away. They're being taken away. So I know that that represents subtraction. So I'm going to start out with my 24 muffins minus the 3 that she gives away. Now I also know each day she also bakes 36 cupcakes and she gives away 4. So I'm going to also write down that she bakes 36 cupcakes. Now once again, if she's giving away 4 of those cupcakes, that means they're going away. They're being taken away. So it's going to be 36 minus 4. Now I'm going to come back down to question 9, and it says, write an expression to represent the total number of muffins and cupcakes that Joan sells in 5 days. Well, I know that if they're looking for the total number of muffins and cupcakes, total means I'm going to add those two amounts together. Now, I also know that they're not talking about just in one day, which is what this represents. They're talking about the number in 5 days. So what I'm going to do is, I'm first of all going to put these two expressions inside parentheses, because these both represent, first of all, the number of muffins in one day and the number of cupcakes in one day. But once again, we're not just talking about one day, we're talking about 5 days. So around those two sets of parentheses, I'm going to place brackets. So let me write those brackets down. Now, outside of those brackets, once again, I know that we're talking about the number of muffins and cupcakes Joan sells in 5 days. So I'm going to take, and I'm now going to multiply that amount by 5. And what I now have is my expression that represents the total number of muffins and cupcakes that Joan sells in 5 days. Okay, now we're going to take a look at question number 10. And for number 10, the problem says to evaluate the expression to find the total number of muffins and cupcakes Joan sells in 5 days. So what I've done here is I've written down the expression that we came up with for question number 9, and our job is now going to be to evaluate the expression. Now remember, if I'm working with multiple grouping symbols like parentheses and brackets, I have to work from the innermost set, which in this case would be parentheses, to the outermost set, which would be our brackets. Okay, so I'm going to start working first inside our set of parentheses here, and what I know that I have is I have 24 minus 3. Now, when I take 3 away from 24, that's going to give me 21. So I'm going to rewrite the rest of the problem that's given. So I have my brackets, and inside the brackets I have 21 plus, in parentheses, 36 minus 4, and then outside the brackets I have times 5. Well, what I notice is, and let me add that set of parentheses in there, what I notice is I still have a set of parentheses that I need to work with. I still have 36 minus 4. So I'm going to work to solve that next. And when I take 4 away from 36, that's going to leave me with 32. So I'm now going to rewrite the problem. In my brackets, I have 21 plus 32, and then outside the brackets, I have times 5. Now, I've taken care of what's inside the parentheses, so now I'm going to work on what's inside the brackets. So I'm going to go ahead and add 21 plus 32, and when I do that, that takes me to 53. Now, my last step is to multiply 53 times the 5. And when I multiply 53 times 5, that's going to give me 265. So what I know is, I know that in 5 days, Joan sells 265 muffins and cupcakes. And we did that working from the innermost set, which was our parentheses, to the outermost set, which was our brackets. Now, let's take a look at our homework questions for tonight. I would like you guys to complete question number 1, along with question number 2, and then also questions numbers 3 through 6. These questions can be found in your Go Math workbook on page 26. Don't forget, somewhere on your homework page I want you to let me know, do you feel like you're number 1 a novice, number 2 an apprentice, number 3 a practitioner, or number 4 an expert? Don't forget, your homework questions for tonight are number 1 and number 2, as well as numbers 3 through 6. And once again, these questions can be found on page 26 in your Go Math workbook. I hope you have a great evening, and I look forward to seeing you at school tomorrow.